I met Cath on site at Brent Town and asked about the recently published plan for BarNet entitled Caring for People, Our Places and the Planet. Residents will have their say in regeneration through partnership boards. I asked Cath how that worked.
When the administration came to power in May 22, they were really clear that across the whole range of the council's work, they wanted to see much kind of greater partnership with residents and much more resident voice. So we already had the partnership board structures in some places. They just bring together local businesses, local residents and other groups, community groups, schools and so on. But really we're trying to shift the nature of the dialogue from being, oh, here's our proposal, do you like it or not, to something that's much more, this is your community, what will make it work better for you, what do you want to achieve. So it's really more about the nature of the dialogue changing than actually the sort of organisational structures, some of which were there before. I think the answer lies in listening to the community, in the quality of the design and in making sure that we put the infrastructure and the kind of the local benefit around the new housing. So you can see here at Brent Town, you know, we've already delivered 2 amazing parks. One of them's temporary, one permanent. We've got the local parade of shops has been upgraded, and the tenants in those shops are local businesses. So we have the guy that used to sell coffee by Cricklewood Station has got his first shop as a coffee roasting shop. So just kind of making it part of the local community rather than something like an alien has landed in the local community, I think is an incredibly important way of getting acceptance. You'll never please everyone all of the time, but I think people do recognise that there's a housing crisis in London, and so we do need more housing, and we just need to deliver that in a way that respects existing local communities. I mean, we've had some developments that have been rejected that have been at the sort of numbers that you might call gentle density, so sort of 180 dwellings per hectare, but actually they've still been in the form of big square blocks that have sort of jarred with local residents and the local community. Whereas in near Henley's Corner, we've got a fantastic development by Peter Barber for Kira Patwa, which is it's in a muse accommodation, so that's 167 dwellings per hectare. So when you're very kind of closely woven into those existing communities, that sort of real thoughtful design and maybe some of those more dense housing rather than big blocks of flats is probably the way forward. Somewhere like this, we're creating a whole new town. I think this will be dense. And then the answer is how you make the place feel of a human scale when you're in it. So really paying attention to that ground floor experience, and you know, in Related Argent we have such a fantastic partner for that, because they didn't just go and sprinkle fairy dust on King's Cross. They thought really, really hard about how people move through the space, what the right sizes for the spaces were, how the different retail units work together, and it's all that kind of attention to detail that is going to make this a fantastic place, and hopefully, you know, we can learn from that going across the borough. So we're not very far here from Hampstead Garden Suburb, which was a real exemplar development of the early 20th century, and I think this at Brent Town could be an exemplar for the 21st century. The headline numbers are 6,700 homes and 3 million square feet of office space, but really we want it to be a place that feels like a thriving place, and we worked really hard when we were selecting our partner to think through, well, what does that really mean? What do we mean by a great place? What are the components of that? And then when we went to the market, we really focused on getting a partner that understood our vision rather than just buying a master plan, which is so often what happens. So, you know, we started from a principle of long-term stewardship. Councils are here for the long term. We need our places to be great, not just when they're finished, but for the 20, 50, 100 years afterwards. And then we looked at the 4 pledges that we've developed with Related Argent around net zero, around a place where everyone can flourish, connectivity into London, but also more widely across the borough, and sport and play, being the place in London for sport and play. And you know, we put those in before the pandemic, and I think people quite surprised by some of them. Actually, it feels like the world's caught up with us a bit, and that's exactly what people are looking for now in their places, is that sense of that you can spend time there, that it's a great place to be, but it's also can be a place to work, a place to exercise, a place to get out and about in the environment and enjoy green spaces. We were really conscious that we wanted this to be a place for everybody, a place for all ages, all backgrounds, and when you look at what it is that people want from their place, actually you don't just want to exist, you don't just want to have a dormitory, you really want to thrive and flourish. And we've worked, Related Argent have worked with the University of Manchester to create a thing called the Flourishing Index, which will enable us not only to kind of see where we get to, but also to baseline how well we think the community's doing now, so that we can see that we really are holding ourselves to account on delivering that. It was originally, I think, envisaged as a reason to extend the shopping centre. You know, out of town retail is not allowed, so we'll build the town around the retail. And obviously, the shopping centre is not now expanding, but we are building the town, and it's fantastic to see. When the leader won the election, the very first thing he said was that he was declaring a climate emergency. Pretty much the second thing he said was that he wanted Barnet to be more of a fun place, that he wanted it to be more of a destination, and that he wanted us to celebrate our communities more. So in terms of destination, there's if you go to developments all over Barnet, they tell you how long it takes to get to Zone 1. 23 minutes from Euston, or 20 minutes from King's Cross. Or, and the challenge he's given us is, we will have succeeded in making a Barnet a destination when you go to King's Cross and there's a sign saying you can get to Brent Cross in only 12 minutes. Isn't that amazing? We've made a start really focusing on celebrating our own communities. So we've already funded over 50 community groups to hold their own events. We've got a programme over the summer involving pride events. We're part of the London Festival of Architecture for the first time. We've got 70 events in that space. We'll be celebrating South Asian Heritage Month. We've got a big programme of events. We've also got these amazing green spaces in Barnet, incredible green spaces, and we want to get more people using them, partly on a day-to-day basis, but also by having more festivals, more food markets, more events in them, so that people can come and enjoy all of the fantastic things that Barnet has to offer. I think one of the things we realised in the pandemic was that actually our local places are great, and that yes, it's fantastic to have central London on our doorstep. It has so much to offer. We love having it there, but actually our suburbs have incredible assets, incredible cultural assets, and reasons to visit them as well. And it's a really good example of why officers should always listen to elected members, because I think when the leader said he wanted to be a borough of fun, some of us were a bit kind of, there's a cost of living crisis on, and there's all these challenges and problems and austerity, and really, is that our priority? But actually, when we went out to the community and said, what do you think of this as a goal? They loved it, and everybody said, well-being, flourishing, as we were talking about, that's all so important to us, and actually being a borough of fun is a really important part of that. So it's our goal, and we're going to go for it. Earlier this year we launched our BarNet Zero. We are very fortunate that we've got net in our name, so we can make a nice brand. We've got our BarNet Zero brand, which is really encouraging people to take small steps to do the things that they can to reduce their carbon footprint. We've also just completed 2 citizens' assemblies, one for adults and one for young people, and they'll be reporting back to our cabinet later this month with their recommendations for where we should be focusing our energy. I mean, we've had young people from age 12 to in their 90s, to older people in their 90s, and they get around the table, and we pose the question of what do we need to do to in this case make the journey to net zero, and then they get input from experts, they debate, they work out where they get the data, the evidence of what our carbon footprint is, and they kind of come to a set of conclusions themselves. And it was really encouraging to see the process in action, because I think we're so used to a sort of social media-led divisive culture war type approach that it was really refreshing to see that actually when you get people in the room and you give them the information and you enable them to ask all the questions they want to ask, they have really grown-up constructive debates and get to sensible conclusions. So it was really kind of encouraging to see from that perspective, but also they've come up with some great proposals that I'm sure we're now going to integrate into our plan. If you go to communities and say, this is what we've done, is it okay with you? The answer is almost certainly no. If you go to communities and say, we need to improve the quality of these buildings and put more housing on this space, how should we do that? Of these green spaces that don't look very used to us and from the outside, which of them actually are very well loved, and which of them would you be prepared to see taken over with housing? People are, they engage in a very constructive debate. We've got a scheme on site now called Upper and Lower Fosters, which is a 1960s estate, which was very much in that style of blocks that sort of dotted around. And the local community have worked with us to design a street-based scheme with infill of housing in between the blocks to create a set of streets. And it's going ahead. It's really popular. We didn't get very much opposition at planning. Much smoother, slower up front, but it's just a question of where you invest the time. You get a much smoother ride if you listen to people at the outset.